Hey guys, insight number 2 here. I'm sitting out in this beautiful winter sun because, oh my gosh, it's just soaking through to my bones and I love it. It's been bitterly cold here, so I'm just enjoying this brief moment before the sun disappears. And it might look summery, but it's probably about 7 or 8 degrees, which I think is around 45 Fahrenheit. Cold. Now we're going to go into section 82. Let's get into this. Let's just do it. Alright, section 82. Now this is a really good section. Interestingly, now if you're reading Saints or you're following through in Revelations and context, this one is kind of special. It's all about forgiveness and just about the Lord's promises to us, what is sort of required of us, but it's required in the most loving, good, gracious way. What really sort of speaks to this is before this is given, previous to the other one that we just read, we just did section 81, and that's in 15th March 1832. Now on the 24th of March 1832 is the incident where the tar and feathering of Joseph in Sydney, where they dragged Joseph out of his home, or out of where he was staying at the John Johnson home, and exposed his son who's got measles. There's the twins that they adopted, and he later dies as well. And it's often referred to as the first martyrdom of the restored church, is that little boy. Pretty sad, but at that point Joseph gets tarred and feathered, and it's horrible. And there's some really great, my husband and I, we watched on YouTube, there was some really great sort of discussions from BYU professors around this, and videos to sort of give you a visual on it. There's probably some that are more suited to watch for children. There's some if you really want to deep dive into it. It did make me cry though. It was very sad. I had an emotional moment over watching what it would have looked like, and that just made me sad that people would do that. Drunken hooligans that were just drunk on Satan's whisperings, I guess. It's just, Satan's scuttlebutt. He's been whispering in their ears and they've decided to do this evil thing. But that happened on the 24th. Now on the 25th, Joseph stood up, and some of those people, stood up and a little church down the road, a little schoolhouse down the road, and gave this beautiful sermon on forgiveness that led into section 82. About a month later, this section was written. But in between that, there's a lot that happens. And you see quite a gap in the date because he was recovering. Because after they lost that little boy, that was 4 children they'd lost. And he knew what was coming. He thought at that point he was dead. He thought Sydney was dead. Oh, just go watch it, read about it. It's interesting. But that happens in between. But section 82 is a lot around what high priests have to do. This is, talking about what they need to do. It's going more into United Firm, or it comes later as the Order, which is interesting because the United Order is a Star Wars thing. It's like, wonder where they got that from. Star Wars? And just to sort of put forth around some guidelines into, come on, this is really what we should be doing. Sort yourselves out. We're going to go, though, to verse 3, which is one you've probably heard a lot. So this is section 82, verse 3. It says, For of him unto whom much is given, much is required. And he who sins against the greater light shall receive the greater condemnation. And you think, well, what does that mean? And that just means that those of us have been blessed and know it and have so much and then turn away from it are just going to have more, because we have more responsibility, the punishment's going to be more. And I think we've all seen this in people we might know that have been given a whole lot, and it's been required of them to, be that calling is probably what we've seen most, or I've seen some people I know in my family that are members of the church, had awesome patriarchal blessings with, promises in them for all these things they could, and then they turn their back on it. They get so far, they take temple covenants out, and then turn their back on it. And although it's loving and gracious, and forgiveness is always there, of course, but because they had more given to them, they then have more responsibility. And when you turn away from that responsibility, the consequences are greater. This is what it's pointing out. So that's what it means. However, the question I had, because how does this apply to us, right? How does this get us right now? is where in your life is much required? Because we often feel that more than what we've been given. And it says, where much is given, much is required. And it's in the New Testament as well. Don't ask me where. You could probably find it pretty quicker than I could, but it is in there. I think it's in Matthew. I don't know. Let's not go there. But yeah, where in your life is much required? Now for me, I know I've been blessed with certain talents that have been of great assistance to me. One of them's been writing. I'm pretty good at writing stuff up at last minute, or making it make sense, or editing someone else's work. I'm good at that. Not good enough maybe to be, this world famous journalist, probably if I'd pursued it maybe, but I don't want to do that. I'm also really good at math. I don't like math, but I'm good at it. Which you'd think, that would make you be good at music. No, not. But we all have certain talents and skills. Remember, all of us have something to bring to the table. As little, as big as you may think it is, we all have something. So I know I have this, and it's been required of me in using these talents. Much is required of me in using these talents. Just last Sunday, we gave talks in Morrinsville, my husband and I, our Morrinsville branch, and they desperately just needed some people to visit and speak because they didn't have anyone. And I wrote my husband's talk Saturday night. And I was able to pull it off and do that. And that's a gift I've been given. And it's one of those things that I have been given a lot of it. I have a good talent in that area. So it is required of me to then use it. And we'll get on to why in insight number 4. So I'm going to go with that. But if you're feeling much is required somewhere in your life, ask for the abundance that came first. Look for the abundance that came first. If you've got, this is being required of me in a big way, well, where did the abundance come from then? Where is the abundance in that? Because if you're being much is required, then much was given. So there's a ebb and flow in there. Sorry about the helicopter from the hospital. And what is the point of having abundance if you don't share it, right? What's the point of having all this stuff or all this talent if you don't share it? It's not always about money. Abundance isn't about money, or it's hardly ever actually. You might think it is because it's what the world will tell you, but really it's just if you've got an abundance of something, if you've got a much of something, then what's the use of it if you're not sharing it? You're just having a collection of muchness, right? Think about it. All right. And the thought from this is simple. Just go look at the hymn 219. Because I have been given much, I too must give. It was my grandmother's favourite. It's a good way to live. It's a very satisfying to the soul way to live. Totally recommend looking at that one in more depth. That hymn is amazing. All right. That's that thought. We'll catch up in a minute on insight number 3.